Data is something what a program takes as an input and tries to solve a problem by doing some operations on top of the data. And data type is something which tells the interpreter or compiler what a programmer intends to do on that data. It's very important to know the different data types available in a programming language, and now we'll have a look over different data types of Python available in Python. The next thing is how we declare valid and an invalid variables in Python, and we'll have a look over that as well. And the last thing is to see and look over how Python does type conversions, how an implicit type conversion is done in Python, and how a programmer can do an explicit type conversion in Python. These are some very easy concepts to learn, but very important concepts before we start digging into functions and trying to build much more complex programs in Python.
Let's see the data types available in Python. So these are the list of data types, inbuilt data types available in Python. The first one, if you see, is the string, which is available in almost all the programming language. Second one is numeric types, integer, float, or complex numbers. Third one is a sequence type, which is list, tuple, and range. You can say string is also a sequence type because we can access each element or each character of the string by indexing. We'll have an example and look a bit more detail into this one. Next is mapping type, which is dictionary, which is also something in some of the programming language you would have heard about hash maps. Then the sets and the frozen sets, then the Boolean, and then the binary types. If we see the basic numeric data types available in Python, then let me take a marker again. Yeah, and the next one will be integer. First question, how long can be an integer in Python? You will be surprised that Python can hold the integer length as it's not limited by number of bits as in other programming languages like C. It will be like 4 bytes, but here it can go as long as you want till you have memory in your computer. And then integer, we can declare integer in form of a binary number, which is written by like 0, and then we write a b or 10, or even we can write a small b and 10. Next is a complex, which is 1 plus 2 iota in the format, which is 2j. Next is the hex, which we represent by 0, cross, and the number. And we can declare an octal number by 0, and this is an O, small o, and then a 10, which is an octal number. We declared float just as it is. There are many more data types, and we'll learn each of them as they come in other videos. Okay, so variables. What are variables? You can say that variables actually are just containers for data. They hold the data what we use in our computer programming. And what are expressions? Expressions are just combinations of these variables, which results in some values or what we evaluate. Like we can combine these variables using some operators like plus and minus, and we can evaluate some values, and we call these whole number or the sequence basically. If you say is a variable x plus variable y plus variable z is equal to we save this maybe whole of this in something called value. Yeah, let's get this of this. Then we say this is an expression, and we save this expression result in a variable called value. Yeah, we need variables a lot because we want to generalize everything what we want to write. We don't want to have everything constant. Sometimes we want to take input from the users and during building the scripts, and that's why we need variables to store them as a container for our data. There are some restrictions in naming variables in Python because these names or these what you can say, these words are used as inbuilt words in Python programming language, so you cannot use them for naming your variable. If you use them, Python will throw an error, like and, pass, continue, except, lambda, with, while, yield, if, oh, yeah, it's gone on. There's no need to learn this. As you get into programming using Python, you will start remembering each of them by yourself. There are certain conventions to be followed when basically naming the variable. For the first one is variable can't have spaces. Okay, the variable should start with a letter or with an underscore. You can start with a variable by using some special characters, not something like and, or maybe like space, or maybe like hash, right? Or maybe even you cannot start a variable by using a number and then saying okay to name. No, You cannot do that. You cannot do that. You cannot do that. Okay, and then variable can only be made up of letters, numbers, and underscore. Python variables are case sensitive. So if you declare a variable called name, it is different from a variable called name. Yeah. Or if you declare a variable called name like everything is capital, then it is different from a variable called name. Type conversion. Python is really intelligent to handle in this case, many things as compared to other languages. Python implicitly converts types of some of the variables during the execution. Sometimes you declare a variable sometimes you store a data in a variable as integer, but later this gets converted into something like x is a float number, which is 5.6 after some operations. Python just takes care of this. Or we do an explicit conversions in Python, in which we programmatically say that this particular string is not a string, but basically we want to typecast it into an integer. We'll have a look over some of the examples in program itself, and then you'll understand a little bit more. Cool. So let's try to code using whatever we have learned till now and see examples of using these variables, using type conversions, using implicit and explicit type conversions, and also using some of the inbuilt names as variables, and try to see what error Python throws up. This is Visual Studio Code, and I'll be using Visual Studio Code in many of my videos. You can download Visual Studio Code by going online. It's a good IDE to use. And I'll also be using the terminal from time to time. So first thing first, after creating this folder lecture 2, I will try to activate the virtual environment. What is a virtual environment and how we use it? There's a link to my video. If you're not seen, on the right top corner, just go and have a look over it. So I say scripts, and then I say activate. That's the virtual environment of Python we created, and we activated it. Now in this folder, variables.py, right? Okay, now let's try to declare a variable. What's the variable? I say a variable called name, and what data type will the variable store? The variable will store something called a string, so I declare a string. So I say hello everyone. Nice. Next I declare a variable called value, and then I say declare integer here, and then the integer is 60. Next I declare a variable called value complex, and then I declare it as 7 plus 2j. Then I declare a value, another integer variable called value octal, and then I say it as zero, small o, and then maybe 20. Then I declare a variable called value binary, and how we declare a binary, we just saw in the video. 0, and then say b, and then I say 10. Nice. So we declared so many kinds of variables here. Let's try to see the type of these variables. I can just say print type of name, right? And let me use something called Python formatting here so that we just print it nicely. Type of string is dot format, and this one. Let's run it. How we run it? Python. First we need to go to the same folder, so I say the folder called lect2, and then I just clean the screen and I say Python variables.py. Okay, type of string is string, so it's this variable is of type class string. What are the type of the other ones? We can just copy this statement and try to print them as well. Type of value complex is, yep, complex is complex. That's nice. But what will be the type of binary? This is class int because it is also like an integer, but we declare it as a binary number. So that was nice. Now let's try to use these variables and evaluate and try to do some calculations and save them into another variable. It's very simple what we can do. So if I declare another variable updated sum is equal to value into 100 plus 20, and then let's try to print this one. Print value updated sum dot format, and I say updated sum. Nope, that's the value. That's how we do calculations in Python. That's how we declare variable and type of variables. Now the interesting thing is how we do typecasting, how the typecasting is done in Python. So if I declare a variable called, maybe say x is equal to 100.90, Python automatically take this as a float variable. That's super good. And if I do something like y is equal to 10, Python automatically takes y is an integer variable. But if I take something is equal to x plus y, Python implicitly takes care of this, and z is a float variable. Let's try to check this one. So I say print type and value of z is this dot format, and then I say first we wanted to have that look at the type, so I said type of z, and then comma, what I want to print is something, what is the value of the z. That's how. So the type of z is float, and the value of the float value is 109. Now if you want to explicitly convert some variables into some other type, so supposedly if something we declared is like n is a string and a string of 1.0, but I want to convert this into integer, can we do this? Yes, we can do this. So if I say something like new n is like, or I would say n int is equal to str, I typecast it into an integer, then I can basically say that it's an integer. Now let's try to print the types of these two variables. So I say print type of n is dot format type n, and let's also try to print the type of this n int. Then we say type of n int is, then again format type n underscore int. Nice. Let's exit this. How it open? I don't know. CLS. Okay. Seems like the, yeah, we move to some other terminal. Okay, I delete this. Now let's execute this one. Let's try to comment everything on the top so that we don't get confused. We already know these things now. So I comment these. I comment this. Then I say Python variables.py. That's super nice. So, sorry, we wanted to convert this into an integer, so we say something like typecast to an int, right? Size types variable, invalid literal for int with base 10. That was good because we wanted to convert a float into something, an integer, and it cannot be done in Python. So if I create it as a string, I cannot have a basically dot and try to convert it into an integer, but now we can do that. So now the type of n is an string, which it says here. The type of n int is an integer. Nice. So this thing is called explicit type conversion, and this one is called implicit type conversion because it is done by Python automatically. So we just saw few examples on explicit and implicit type conversions, right? Let's try to see a few more examples and also try to use use keywords and try to declare them as variables and see what error Python throws. So let's try to do this directly on the terminal by using our Python prompt. So I declare a variable called x and I say it's as a string, right? And then I declare a variable called y and I give it as a value 90.0. Now what I want to basically save these or sum these up. Can we do it? No, because plus Python understands that I am trying to concatenate to a string by using a plus sign, but I cannot do that. But what I wanted to do, I want to sum them up. So I need to explicitly typecast the first variable x to a integer value. So I can do something like int x and then plus y. Yes, and that works. And that gives me 190, which is a float. Super nice. The next one, what we wanted to basically see is, can we use the word continue to declare a variable? No, because continue is used by Python. So we cannot use that for declaring variable. Can we use the word called and for declaring a string? No, I cannot do that as well. So that's what we have shown in one of the slides on the video, where some of the inbuilt type or the inbuilt words which are used, the types which cannot be used as for declaring variables in Python, and we should basically take care of that as well. Nice. So we got a good introduction to Python data types and how we use the data types and how we declare variables and use the variables. Python explicit and implicit typecasting. These are very simple programming concepts, but they are really, really important, and we should understand them well. And we'll be seeing them when we start to create a bigger program, a bit more complex programs, the next videos. So see you next time. Bye-bye.